all of a sudden my arms went completely still. And just the overwhelming sensation of violently having tremors for the past 10 years and then going completely away was just an uncontrollable emotion where I just sobbed tears of joy just knowing that they were gone.
Welcome to Curing with Sound, a podcast presented by the Focus Ultrasound Foundation. I'm your host, Allison Preston Smith. Today's guest experienced the ultimate shock when, at 42 years old, he was diagnosed with young onset Parkinson's disease. Bobby Krause was a parent actively involved in his children's sports activities and a sales executive who was frequently traveling the country for work, but he began to notice a tremor that made his daily activities a challenge. His world was further turned upside down when he received his diagnosis. Bobby's search for a treatment to address his tremor led him to Focus Ultrasound. Now he's back to engaging in the activities that brought him joy before, and he's an outspoken advocate of Focus Ultrasound, speaking to U.S. policymakers in D.C. about his experience. He's also started the Be Still Foundation to help others with tremor-dominant Parkinson's. Welcome to the podcast, Bobby. We're so glad to have you here.
Thank you, Allison, and thank you for the opportunity to share my story. And more importantly, thank you to the foundation for what you're doing for the Parkinson's community in getting education and awareness out there of this much needed innovation and technology.
Absolutely. So when did you start noticing the tremor?
Yeah, so about the age of 40, I noticed kind of what I thought initially was a nervous tic. Everything from maybe holding my iPad wrong to a nerve impingement. Certainly the last thing that I had thought was that it was Parkinson's. So around 40, I noticed again kind of a nervous tic on the left side of the body that became more and more prominent, as I got closer to the initial diagnosis at age 42.
And were there any activities you previously enjoyed and were no longer able to do?
Yeah, so certainly. One of the things that I absolutely love doing as a former college athlete, I enjoyed coaching my two sons in basketball and other sports. If you know about tremors, stress is one of the worst things you can do to increase the rate of the tremor. And then coaching your own boys adds a whole different meaning of stress to the equation. So that was something that almost 9 years ago I had to put on the back burner as I was embarrassed and had issues managing coaching from the sidelines. From a family perspective, there was a lot of things that I had to remove from my daily schedule. I was either too tired or struggled with other medical challenges that prevented me from being an active father and an active husband. And then with work, one of the things that I most struggled with was, again, just that energy, that focus, and then more importantly, just that ability to stay on point with what needed to at a corporate executive level.
I'm sure that was so challenging, and it sounds like it was a steady degradation. How long did you try to manage these symptoms on your own?
Yeah, so till roughly 42, when it got so prominent, where I was starting to get drop foot and some other challenges with dystonia and some of the dyskinesia, I tried to manage it for about 2 years. Again, just thinking at some point this was just going to take care of itself and just miraculously go away. It wasn't until I actually got my formal diagnosis that we looked at other alternatives.
Did it feel like it was happening very quickly, or did it feel like more of a slow progression?
From what I've read and from what I experienced, it was more of a slow progression. Again, I think it seems to be more of a experience that many with young onset have, where, again, it's not just a 0 to 100 miles an hour. It was, again, a slow little tick in the shoulder, which then turned into a little bit in the left leg as well. And then I could feel the tremors getting worse and they're actually lengthening. The one thing that's a little different for tremors with Parkinson's versus those with essential tremors is the Parkinson tremor will typically be engaged when you're at a still position versus essential tremors. It's when it's during an activity where they're picking up a glass or doing some sort of micro movement with the hand. So what I would notice typically is when I was sleeping or when I was sitting still at a meeting or standing up when I was presenting, that's when the tremors got much worse and much more prominent and became more of a challenge for me to manage, both physically as well as mentally.
And did you use medication to treat your symptoms at first?
I did. So from about roughly 42 to 46, I tried to go the medicine route. And what I actually found, Allison, was that for me, the medication was probably worse than the disease itself. I struggled with significant challenges with depression. Again, as somebody in their early 40s with children, a former college athlete, and I felt broken. You go through stages of embarrassment, being ashamed. What are my kids thinking? What are my colleagues thinking? And it was something that it was just a real struggle to deal with. So the medication for me created challenges from the standpoint of, again, of depression. I was in bed, a kind of a recluse. I would pull back around 6:30 at night, just get away from the family, just go by myself. I'm very much an extrovert and became very much the introvert during this process. In addition, night terrors, extreme cramping, and other challenges kind of popped their ugly head up, during this medication route.
Mm-hmm. That sounds like it was so difficult. And was there a point where you realized we have to get away from the medication and try something different?
Yeah, there was a very defining moment. We had a birthday party for my oldest son at the house, and I came around the corner and I heard my son apologizing to some of his friends, saying, "My dad doesn't usually act like this. He's on medication. He has Parkinson's." And again, as a dad who's absolutely loves his family and feels like I was put on this earth to be a father and a husband, that was something that I immediately went inside and flushed all my medication down the toilet. Called my doctor on her cell phone and just said, "Hey, we need to go a different direction." She said, "Well, let's start weaning off now." And I said, "I don't think you understand. I flushed every pill that I had down the toilet. I'd rather deal with the Parkinson's than the challenges of the medication." So that was the moment that we and my medical team decided, hey, we got to find an alternative source for medication.
When did you first hear about Focus Ultrasound? Was that something your doctor mentioned, or did you find that in just doing your own research?
Yeah, I've been very fortunate. So I have a tremendous medical team down at the University of Penn who've always asked me, how do I want to treat my symptoms? What course do I want to take? How do I want to, what aspects of my quality of life do I want to impact and affect? So in 2016, there were some clinical trials that were occurring that my doctor said, hey, we're watching this really closely. We think you'll be a great candidate for this.
And leading up to the procedure, when you were finally cleared, what was going through your mind? Were you relieved or nervous about it?
Kind of both. I mean, relief from a standpoint that, again, at the mid 40s at that point, having some sort of hope, some sort of opportunity to regain quality of life, obviously was the light that I was looking for, and just praying at the end of the day on the other side that it wasn't an oncoming train, that it was something that was going to work for me, that was going to have the same symptom relief that I saw online from some of the clinical trial patients that saw miraculous results from their sonications from the Focus Ultrasound.
And can you describe what it felt like getting the treatment?
So I'm 6'7", almost 300 pounds. So just fitting in the MRI tube alone is a feat within itself. As they pulled me in the first time, you could kind of hear my arms squeaking on the sides. And then the doctor kind of jokingly asked if I could hold still while we did the procedure, which we kind of just chuckled at, just realizing while I was there. But being on the table, again, the doctors are in your ear telling you what's happening, what's why does your head feel like it's warming up? I mean, it was a great opportunity for me to be slowly walk through the procedure. But that first, they call it a sonication. I've heard some people refer to it as a zap. That first heating of the brain as they're really identifying where that part of the thalamus they're going to treat is a very unnerving feeling. From what I've been told, I guess it heats the brain up to somewhere around the 150 degree temperature range. So again, feeling that heating of and it kind of starts from the ear and it works its way up to the top of the head. But it's for a brief period of time. I think it was roughly 10 to 15 seconds that you kind of feel that warming sensation. But by the time I got to the third sonication, Allison, they told me that I'll start feeling some of the reprieve from some of the tremors and some of the pain and muscle rigidity I had. So on the third sonication, when they pulled me out and put me back in, as they kind of counted down to when the sonication would happen, I immediately looked down at my toes. I had such bad tightness of the toes that my toes actually curled underneath my feet. And as I looked through the mirrors on the head halo that I had on, I could see my toes immediately sprung open. And I could feel the tension just released from my toes. So I'm like, if that's how my toes feel, I can't imagine what it's going to feel in the next couple of sonications when the tremor relief occurs and when some of the muscle rigidity happens. So they pulled me out. We talked through some of the changes that were occurring. How was I feeling? Everything was great. I was doing the normal drawing the circles and doing finger taps and all types of exercises that they have you doing between sonications. They put me back in for the fourth sonication. And as you're laying on the table, Allison, your arms are crossed across your chest. And when it counted down, all of a sudden my arms went completely still. And just the overwhelming sensation of violently having tremors for the past 10 years, and then going completely away was just an uncontrollable emotion where I just sobbed tears of joy, just knowing that they were gone. Pulled me back out. We talked to the doctors. They said, okay, we think there's one more sonication we're going to do. So on the fifth sonication, my muscles just completely gave up to the tremors and the Parkinson's from that perspective of just muscle rigidity. And I just kind of conformed. So again, just think of that circularity of the MRI tube. It felt like my body just completely went around that bottom of the circle. And just, again, all that muscle rigidity was gone, and tremors were completely dissipated. And 2 years later, I'm still tremor-free, which is an absolute miracle and an amazing story and testament to what focused ultrasound can provide.
That's amazing. And what was it like for your family? Were they nervous leading up to the procedure?
Nervous, but again, very excited to get Dad back, especially with my sons. You know, again, it takes such a toll on my relationship and my ability to be an active dad, which is, again, was one of my number one goals in life, is to be an incredible dad and husband and father. But again, it is an in and out procedure. So that morning I was able to say goodbye to him before I went down to the University of Penn. And then when I got home, they were waiting in the driveway for me. And when I got out, I noticed both my sons were just crying.
Wow.
I had some other family members that were there to kind of give me a hug and embrace me while I was there. And the one thing that's somewhat comical from that initial get together was, because of the muscle rigidity and the tightness of the muscles for so many years, I kind of hunched over and it kind of pulled me down a little bit. So 6'7" turned into, we'll say 6'5.5". So that morning when I left the house, my son, who always is constantly measuring himself against me, you know, was slightly taller. When I came back, he noticed that I was taller, and I could just see his head went down as he realized that Dad was, again, the tallest in the family. So, but to see their tears and just their excitement in their faces, to see my wife's response to the treatment, the results, was just absolutely amazing. And in fact, that night, around 10:30, 11 o'clock, we went in, we got our flashlights, and me and my sons went for a hike on the same day that I had this life-changing procedure.
That's amazing. And no issues. You were keeping up with them and doing everything you could.
There was a couple of side effects that were known, and they were known for a short window of time. So for me, a couple things I experienced was kind of a depth perception challenge on the side of the body that was affected by the tremors that were gone. So I had the tremors on the left side of the body, so the right side of the brain was treated. But I constantly kind of cut the corners too tight on the left side, so I was constantly running into the door jams and doorways. But that kind of remediated over the next 2 to 3 weeks. And then I think, just like everyone else that I've ever talked to or read about, had a little bit of challenges of gait and imbalance, which through physical therapy and just, I think, healing over time, it naturally corrected itself. But it really took the first 2 to 4 weeks, you know, to really emphasize getting plenty of rest and really making sure that I gave my brain a chance to heal from the procedure, and turned out to be a great move. Like I said, we did do some ensuing physical therapy just to make sure everything was good for the long term, which is something I highly recommend. But shortly after that, I was able to get back to my rock steady boxing classes. I'm now coaching basketball again. So I've been able to return to all normal activities that I wasn't able to do pre-focus ultrasound. But yeah, still tremor free today. 2 years and a month ago, on June 9th was when I had the procedure done.
Well, we're so happy for you, and so happy to hear that you're still tremor free. That's incredible. What would you say to others who are considering focus ultrasound treatment for their tremor dominant Parkinson's?
Yeah, for anybody that's in the young onset community and those with tremor dominant Parkinson's, I would strongly encourage doing your research. Talk to your medical team. Understand, you know, what are you trying to accomplish through this procedure? And again, I was very fortunate to have a medical team that sat down and said, hey, what aspects of life are you looking to improve the quality? And these are the various options. It allowed me to get back to work much quicker than it would have if I would have gotten the DBS route. There was no incisions. I wasn't under anesthesia. And seeing that immediate results was something I was really clamoring for, you know, still being in my 40s and wanting to return to what I would consider a normal life pre-Parkinson's diagnosis.
And in 2023 and 2024, you had the amazing opportunity to speak with U.S. policymakers in D.C. for a Capitol Hill fly-in, and this highlighted the importance of focus ultrasound. So what was that experience like?
Yeah, there was two things to that, Allison, that really stood out to me. One is, it's one thing to tell somebody, hey, this is what I was before and this is what I was after. But when we were with the staffers and the politicians, the policymakers, we're actually able to show our before and after videos. So I know that with myself and other patients that were at the fly-in, the impact that video has had on the lives of the politicians. And we even heard one politician say he's been doing this for 30 plus years. He remembers two of his constituents that he's met over those years, and one of them happened to be with that video because of the very deliberate and distinct messaging that video shows on where you're at before and literally where you're at hours later on the after. So we were able to show our video. We were able to tell our story. For me, it was exciting to be a part of this so that I could tell the leaders in my area, about my challenges, my situation. And they were extremely captive audience, asked lots of questions, and we're starting to see some of the results of those meetings now.
Well, that's great to hear. You also started the Be Still Foundation this year. So can you tell us more about your mission and what you hope to do with that foundation?
Certainly. So in May of 2024, Allison, we made the decision to leave the corporate world and to put all my time, energy, and efforts into paying it forward. I had such a dramatic and transformative experience with my focus ultrasound that I wanted to allow anybody who wanted that procedure to have it done and not be limited by financial resources. So the first pillar of the foundation is to raise the financial resources necessary for anybody who needs to do a cash pay procedure, maybe pay an insurance deductible, cover accommodations. One of the things we didn't talk about before is focus ultrasound treatment does require you to shave your head. So for women who were hesitant to do that, we want to provide an opportunity for purchase of a wig. Whatever is the financial limitation for that person to get, again, a life-changing, life-altering procedure like focus ultrasound, we want to be that tool, that mechanism for them. And then secondarily, I think what we realize too is there's such a need for awareness and education of this innovative technology. I mean, it's not just medication, it's not just DBS. There's now focus ultrasound, which again can be a lot of things to a lot of people. And make a real impact in real time in people's lives. So we want to be there for those two people. So we did start Be Still Foundation, and like I said, in 2024. The website is bestill.foundation to learn more and to provide generous resources to those in need. And that's kind of our tagline, Allison, is providing hope and healing and triumph over tremors.
And that's going to be so helpful for so many people who, may have just received their diagnosis and are just trying to figure out, what's the best option for me. It's so helpful to hear from patients like yourself who have gone through the treatment and can really share their side of the story so then others feel more informed on the best option for them.
Exactly. No, I appreciate that. Again, yes, it's certainly about education, awareness, and then ultimately either the insurance coverage or the financial resources to follow through with that desired procedure.
And your foundation has a very ambitious goal. Do you want to share more about that?
Yes, thank you. So in year one for 2024 here, the goal is to raise enough funds that we could provide 30 cash pay procedures throughout the United States. And the ultimate 5-year plan, Allison, is to provide over 1,000 procedures for those much needed candidates for focus ultrasound. So we do have lofty goals, but we have a lot of exciting cheerleaders behind us that we're sure that we can raise the money and make this happen.
Yeah, that's an incredible goal and so generous. It's going to impact so many people's lives. Well, thank you so much, Bobby, for sharing your story and for spreading the word about focus ultrasound. We really appreciate all the work that you're doing to promote this technology and all of the work that you're doing with the Be Still Foundation.
Thank you, Allison. And again, thank you to the Focus Ultrasound Foundation for all that you're doing to support our communities.
This episode of Curing with Sound has been presented by the Focused Ultrasound Foundation. If you would like to learn more about Focused Ultrasound or the Foundation, visit our website at fussfoundation.org. You can also sign up for our newsletter and follow us on social media.